Hey guys, welcome back. Hope you had a good Christmas and a good New Year. We're going to transition here as we come back, and we're going to start talking about linear equations. So we're going to be dealing with more than one variable, but we're going to use a lot of the same skills that we learned during second quarter about solving equations. And so a lot of that stuff will just continue to build on what we've done before. So we're going to start off with how do we write an equation in what we call y equals mx plus b. That's slope-intercept form. It's going to be a super hugely important form of an equation that we're going to be working with for pretty much all of third quarter. Your notes are posted on your Teams page, so if you want to print those out now, you can. If you've already printed them out, great. If not, we're going to bring them up here shortly, and you can pause if you need to. So the notes that are on your Teams page that you're going to want to be using, writing an equation in y equals mx plus b. The goal and the main point of this is we need to get y alone. So back in second quarter, our goal was to get the variable alone. We'd solve multi-step equations, use the algebraic method to get x alone typically. But now we're going to have y's and x's. The m and the b are going to have meaning to us. All right. And then obviously, most of our equations are all going to have x and y in them. So there's just a couple of brief steps on how to do this. And we're going to break it down throughout this entire first week. The first step is undo the number that is added or subtracted to y. So not the number that's touching y, but the one that's being added or subtracted to it. Now this could be a term that has x. It could be just a plain old number. The second step is then divide the whole equation by the number that's touching y. And that's because when a number is touching a variable, it means multiply. So the opposite of that is divide. And then finally, and very important for this section, is reduce all fractions. All right. So if you need to pause this to get the notes down, you can go ahead and do that now. But we're going to go ahead and transition over to a couple of examples so we can see what we're doing here. And so let's go ahead and zoom in. So we have two examples here. Let's go ahead and cover up the second example for now, and we'll just focus on example number one. So our goal is to get y alone. Now you'll notice there's no number touching y in this particular problem. So this is going to be pretty easy. First thing I need to do is I need to get the 2x and I need to move it to the other side. Well, anytime I solved regular equations, if I wanted to move something to the other side, I would just undo it with addition or subtraction. So this 2x, right underneath it, I'm going to write minus 2x. And then whatever I do to one side of the equals, I'm going to do to the other. So I'm going to put minus 2x. Now I'm going to put the minus 2x off to the side. I'm not going to put it underneath the 8. The 8 does not have an x. So it cannot work with and subtract the 2x from it. And this is going to be the key. We're now going to have more than one variable in play as we solve these. All right, well, the 2x's cancel out. I'm going to bring the y straight down. I'm going to bring the equal straight down. And then I'm going to have 8 minus 2x. Now I could not subtract and get 6 because the 8 again doesn't have an x and the 2 does. Now I want you to do something here, and you can go ahead and combine this into one step, but I want the x term to be in front. So we're just going to rearrange these two right here. And so I'm going to write it as y equals negative 2x and then plus 8. The minus sign belongs to the 2 and the 8 is a positive. And the reason why I want to do this is because the original form of the equation was y equals mx plus b. So if you look at the notes here, the x term needs to be in front, and that's going to have huge meaning for us as we go forward. All right. Well, y is alone, so this answer is done. Now, unlike when we were working in second quarter, we're not just going to have y equals a number. All right, this equation now, because it has two variables, is not going to just be a simple number at the end. And eventually, these two variables are going to work together. All right, so let's take a look at another example here, one that's just a little bit more complex. Okay, so if we take a look at this here, again, my goal is to get y alone. Now, this one has a number touching y. So if we remember our notes, let's take a look back at our notes here. The first thing I'm going to do is undo whatever is added or subtracted to the y. And then step 2, I'm going to have to now do, which is divide the whole equation by the number that's touching y. And then I'm going to reduce at the end. So always undo addition and subtraction first. So again, I'm going to subtract the 6x to both sides because I need to move it to the other side of the equals. I'm going to get 2y equals. Now I'm going to rearrange these now. I want the x term to be first. So just like up here, I rearrange them. I'm going to do it on this step of work. So I'm going to put the minus 6x first, and then I'm going to get plus 10 after. The 10 was a positive, and so I'm going to write it as minus 6x plus 10. Now, y is not alone yet. I have to get y alone, and in order to do that, I have to divide by the number that's touching y. So I'm going to divide by 2. Now, the key is whatever I do to one side of the equals, I have to do to the entire other side of the equals. So if I'm going to divide this by 2, I need to divide the negative 6x by 2, and I need to divide the 10 by 2. Everything in the equation has to be divided by 2. Well, these 2's reduce away. Negative 6 divided by 2. So this is a fraction, negative 6 over 2. Well, that reduces to negative 3x. And then positive 10 over 2 reduces down to positive 5. And this now has y being alone. So that is now complete. So you need to move the x to the other side, and then you need to divide by whatever is touching the letter y. So let's have you try a couple examples before we move on. So I have 2 examples here that are very similar to the ones that we just showed. The only thing that's different, I want you to pay very close attention to the second example. The number that's touching y is now negative. That means you're going to have to divide by a negative on that final step. So go ahead and take a moment and pause this and work through these 2 examples and get y alone. All right, now that you've solved both of these for y, let's go through it quickly here to see how you did. So for this example, I've got the letter y, and I've got to move the 3x to the other side. Well, this 3x is negative, so the opposite of negative 3x is positive 3x. And then whatever I do to one side, I'm going to do to the other. So the first 2 examples had positives, and we had to undo it with a negative. Well, this one starts with a negative, so I'm going to undo it with a positive. I'm going to bring down the y equals, and then remember, I want the x term to be first, so I'm going to put plus 3x first, and then have the positive 8 after. And this is your answer because y is alone, and I have 3x plus 8 on the other side of the equals. Let's take a look at example number 2. This is going to require us to do both steps. I am going to start off by moving the 4x to the other side. So I'm going to do the opposite of positive 4x, which is minus 4x. Again, I'm going to line it up off to the side there a little bit. Minus 2y is coming straight down. Equals is coming straight down. I'm going to go ahead and put the minus 4x in front and the plus 12 after. Remember, my goal is to get the letter y alone. So I have another step here, which is to divide. But in this case, I'm going to divide by negative 2. And if I divide this by negative 2, I have to divide everything else in the equation by negative 2. Pay very close attention to your integers. The negative 2's cancel out. I have a negative 4 over a negative 2. This is 2 negatives in a fraction, and this is 4 divided by 2. So 2 negatives makes this positive, and 4 divided by 2 is 2x. And then over here, I have 12 divided by negative 2. That has 1 negative in the fraction. And so that's going to give me negative 6. So 2 examples there of getting y alone. Now, the next piece that I want to add is going to be for days 2 and 3. So this is pretty much the lesson for day 1. This is going to be the basics, getting introed into getting y alone. You can go ahead and stop the video at this point, and you're going to do solving for y worksheet 1. And we're going to take 2 days to do this so you can ask questions tomorrow if you're a little bit stuck. The next part of this lesson is going to go ahead and get us prepped for solving for y worksheet 2 and solving for y worksheet 3. And the reason why those are different is because we're going to have some fraction work that is going to make it a little bit more difficult. So if you're ready for it, we're going to go ahead and show it now. And then I'll be using this in class, and I'll break it up into 2 days for you. So the basic idea is the same. The only thing that's going to happen now is we're going to have fractions that we're going to have to focus on. So my goal is still the same. My goal is to get y alone. And my first step is the same as it was before. I'm going to go ahead and undo the minus 3x with a plus 3x. And I'm going to add it to both sides. 2y comes straight down, equals, and remember, I want the x term to be first, so I'm going to make this 3x. I'm going to make it minus 16. I still need to get the y alone, so I'm going to divide by the number that's touching the y. So I'm going to divide by 2, and I'm going to divide everything by 2. Now, this is where it gets a little bit different. These cancel out, and I get y equals. Now, here's the key. 3 over 2 does not work out evenly, and this is going to be a fraction answer. Now, I'm still going to reduce fractions if possible. This fraction doesn't reduce at all, so it's just going to stay as 3 over 2. And then I want you to put the x next to the fraction. Don't leave the x in the top of the fraction. Put it next to the fraction. That's going to help us a lot with meaning as we continue to move through this unit. So the 3x over 2 becomes 3 halves with an x next to it. Now, if 3 halves could reduce, I would reduce it. And then the second one here is negative 16 over 2. Well, this one can go in even. So this is going to be a negative because there's one negative in that division. And 16 divided by 2 equals 8. So the same basic principle, I'm just going to have a fraction involved in the answer. And the second example I have here is going to have fractions in both parts of the answer, and we're going to have to worry about how do we reduce our fraction. So first thing is I got to get the y alone. So I'm going to start by undoing minus 3x, minus 3x with a plus 3x. So I got minus 9y equals, put the 3x first and the plus 15 after. I need to now divide by the number touching y. So I'm going to divide by negative 9, and I'm going to divide everything by negative 9. Now this is the key. The negative 9s cancel out, and we get the y alone. Now for this first fraction has one negative in it, so it's going to be a negative. 3 over 9 can reduce. They go in evenly, but the bigger number is on the bottom. If the bigger number is on the bottom, even when they go in evenly, you're still going to be left with a fraction. So 3 and 9, 3 over 9 reduces down to 1/3 because both numbers divide by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. You'll notice I took the negative sign and I put it in front. I'm going to put the x next to that fraction. The second fraction has one negative, so that's also going to finish as a negative. And I have to reduce this fraction as well. Well, 15 and 9 can both be divided by 3. 15 divided by 3 is going to give me a 5 on the top. And then 9 divided by 3 is going to give me a 3 on the bottom. So I put the minus sign in front, and then I reduce that down to negative 5/3. So this one here is going to be the trickiest when it comes to having to get y alone and manage your fractions. So let's have you guys go ahead and try an example here yourself. So let's put an example in here. So this example that I want you to try is going to be minus 5x plus 10y equals 24. So go ahead and stop this video here for a moment and then go ahead and solve the problem. Remember, you're getting y alone and you're going to have fractions that need to reduce. All right, now that we're back, let's see how you did. Again, I want to get y alone. I'm going to undo the minus 5x with a plus 5x. I bring down the 10y equals, put the 5x in front, the plus 24 after. I need to get rid of the number that's touching y, so I'm going to divide by 10. I have to divide everything in this problem by 10. The 10s reduce away. And I get y equals 5 over 10. The bigger number is in the bottom, so this is going to stay a fraction. They both can divide by 5. So 5 over 10 becomes 1/2, and then put the x next to it. And then 24 over 10 can also reduce. Now this one reduces a little bit differently. 24 and 10 can both be divided by 2. So this is going to become a positive, and 24 divided by 2 is 12, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. And your answer is y equals 1/2 x plus 12 over 5. And again, our goal right now is to just work on getting y alone. We're going to talk about all the meaning that's behind this later. So that video is going to be used for basically the entire week's worth of assignments. I would highly recommend to go back and watch examples and redo examples, especially if you were struggling a little bit with the fraction ones. We'll go ahead and have a test on this come Friday. And so if you've got questions throughout the week, please make sure that you are getting those answered. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys later.